And that is converting rentals to notes and then investing in notes. So,
Yes.
can you spend a little bit of time talking about each of those and help us understand the difference?
Okay, so for some of your audience, they have rent houses.
Hmm.
Not everybody in your audience has a rent house, so we'll get to them in a moment. But let's talk about the people that have rent houses right now. What if I could show you how to take a rent house and instead of earning 4% a year, earn 10 or 12% a year?
Sign me
Same
up
cost.
all day long. Sign me
And
up.
so that is
Welcome to the Stephen Lee Thomas Show, where we provide expert advice for real estate entrepreneurs. And I'm your host, Stephen Lee Thomas. And it wasn't that long ago that I was navigating the challenges of real estate investing, learning from my mistakes, and building the business I have today. I created this show to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. Each week, we bring you in-depth discussions with industry leaders and professionals who share their knowledge and practical tips. So sit back, take notes, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Stephen Lee Thomas Show. I'm your host, Stephen Lee Thomas, and today I am thrilled to welcome Eddie Speed. Now, Eddie's a pioneer in the note investing industry with over 40 years of experience. He's also the founder of NoteSchool and president of Colonial Funding Group, LLC. Eddie has completed more than 50,000 note deals, including 6,000 in the past 3 years alone, which is very impressive. So Eddie's passion for teaching and commitment to ethical practices have made NoteSchool the go-to resource for both novice and experienced note investors. Eddie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. I have no complaints, man. I'm really excited to talk to you because I've heard so much about notes, but it's really an area, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a ton of questions.
Okay.
And I think the listeners are going to get a lot of value today. So now you've been doing this for 40 years. I'd love to get into the background, but before we do that, can we just kind of level set the playing field here? Can you give us a high level overview? What is a note? When people say note, like what does that mean?
Well, specifically in our case, we're buying first mortgages mostly on people's houses. So that is specifically what we do. It could be on other kinds of property. It could be on multifamily. It could be on land. It could be on other property types. But just think in simple terms of I'm buying a first mortgage on somebody's house and they live there and they're going to pay me every month. And I have the cushion of the bank
Hmm.
and the workload of the bank, not a landlord. And I say the cushion of the bank, think in terms of when you buy a piece of property, what does the lender want? They want you to make a down payment. So I'm buying a loan that our investment in the note is not what the property is worth. So there's a cushion between what the property is worth and what I have invested in the mortgage, meaning that God forbid something go wrong, there's cushion factor. So I'm buying a loan that has monthly payments typically, and they're paying back their debt, their principal, with interest over time.
So let's break this down a little bit more. So I bought a house, and let's say we'll just go with like Wells Fargo or something. I mean, a lot of
Yep.
people I think can relate to that one. So I bought
Yep.
a house. The lender is Wells Fargo, and I'm paying them. That's my first mortgage, right? I got a bank
That's it.
loan. I'm
Yep.
paying that, and then what you're saying is you're acquiring that, like you're buying that
Yeah.
note. You're
But I'm
taking
not
that
buying
on.
it from Wells Fargo.
Okay.
Okay. I'm a specialist in dealing in seller financing. So
Hmm.
you say, would why in the world would somebody buy a property and want or need seller financing?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Wells Fargo and most all of the big banks and all the big loan originators, the predominant deal that they do or they create loans that are sold into government quasi agencies, right?
Right.
Fannie,
Hmm.
Freddie, FHA, VA. So let's go look at the Mortgage Bankers Association Mortgage Credit Availability Index. This is for like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The day before the virus started, that index was at 185. Today it is at 95. And
Okay.
you're saying, Eddie, are you saying that like literally half the people that could have qualified for a Fannie Mae loan in early 2020, January of 2020, are you saying they can't qualify today? Yep. So I represent the people that have been left behind, and we found out that seller financing becomes a very good alternative for both me, that's the property seller, and it becomes a great alternative for my buyer. And that's basically an example of how seller financing fills a gap in the market.
Okay. So now I bought this home from Wells Fargo. It's been, I don't know, we'll just go with 5 years. You can give me a better example if it makes sense. At what point do I work with you or does a buyer work with you? Like how do I get to the point where I'm like, you know what? Let's do let's do a note on this. Like how does that transaction happen? Like
So
how do people find you and work with you? Like what is this scenario there?
yeah. So let me clarify. It's not Wells Fargo. It's just Eddie Speed Real Estate,
Yep.
right? But I'm the lender and not just the seller of the property. I'm both. I'm the seller of the property and the lender, right? And so I might buy a deal like that from somebody that is literally like they've just created the transaction and I'm going to buy the note. And I work with them in a recipe and a formula of how to make a note that would meet our standards. Not every note meets our standard. And so I'm going to help them construct the note. And I'm in 3 or 4 real estate masterminds that probably 90+% of the top 500 house buyers are in those masterminds. So I work with those guys all the time in how to manufacture the right note. A lot of people
Gotcha.
seller financing, they kind of cowboy it and they make up
Mm-hmm.
terms and the documents and stuff. Well, those are loans that aren't they're not going to be tradable in the secondary market when they're when they don't have a long pay history. Long they hadn't been paying for years. I do buy loans, a lot of loans where people have carried the notes for years and then show up and want to sell me the notes. So those are what I call legacy portfolios. They've been around for a long time. But that's how I find the customers that have notes. I don't really deal with mom and pop that does seller financing. I don't deal with I deal with people that are more trainable of how to make good notes. That's how I find notes to buy, right? And right now, the rush in the market are people that have rental houses because they're not satisfied with what they're making on rentals.
Exactly. Yeah. Rentals are a tough space. So my background's in multifamily, and I'll tell you, it's rough. Like there are challenges with it right now. So all right, so we got a baseline of what notes are. I'd like to rewind the clock about 40 years. And I'd like to get to know you a little bit more. And I got your website up here and it's got the NoteSchool journey. So I'm gonna, try to visualize this if you're listening, but it's 1980, Eddie Speed enters the note business. 1999, NoteSchool was founded. 2010 reached 1,000 mentoring students. 2015 launched innovative Martha model for our IRA investors. 2018 completed 40,000th note deal. 2021 introduced hedge funds partnerships for exclusive deal flow. 2023 surpassed 50,000 note deals, which is crazy impressive, and 2,000 mentoring students. And 2024 launched revolutionary done for you no investing programs. Eddie, you've accomplished a ton. So tell us about you. Like, how did you get started? Like, what was the spark that drove you to all of this?
Well, I'm an old guy, right? I'm 65, right? So I started at 20 years old and I met a guy who later became my father-in-law, right? And he was in the note buying business, formerly a landlord, had multifamily, had single family rentals, millionaire next door, fireman, did it on the side, built a portfolio. And we come along and interest rates were, more than 12% interest and in a very inflationary time. And guess what people needed? They needed seller financing to fill a gap in the market. So there was a lot of people seller financing because of this market condition. And so he says, well, I understand real estate, so I think I'll just buy notes. Way less work. I
Hmm.
got control So I like the deal. I can be the bank. And so he introduced me to this idea of buying notes. And at 20 years old, only thing I could bring to the table is hustle. I didn't have any money and I didn't know anything, but I was willing to hustle. And so I was kind of a vehicle to go out and chase notes for him. And then, year after year, I just learned more about it. My wife and I married in 1982 and moved to Dallas to open a note buying shop. And then, I've lived through lots of cycles. Around 1986 or 87, I met the guy that founded Homevestors, the Ugly House guys, and I was his note guy. So even before he formed Homevestors, he was trying to formulate this idea, and he found out this was a really good idea for the real estate investor to be able to offer seller financing. But once again, it needed a recipe. It needed to follow a formula. In other words, it needed to be consistent, not inconsistent. And so I have a long history of helping people create good seller financing so that I can then come represent and buy all or part of their note. And there's various ways to do it where, somebody can have some liquidity. They can pay off their underlying mortgage. They can, walk away with some cash, but they can still keep some long-term income. And I still come in and buy, some piece of their note. Maybe they sell me, maybe they create a note and the payment's $1,500 a month and they sell me $1,000 a month and they keep $500 a month. There's a way to do that. And it's done in mortgage banking all the time. And I just try to bring mortgage banking concepts to seller financing. That's why people say, how have you bought 50,000 notes? Because I helped my clients create seller financing that looked and smelled and tasted like mortgage banking paper.
Okay. And is that like the genesis of NoteSchool? I mean, how did NoteSchool come about? Is that really it?
People love the idea of buying notes, just nobody knows how to do it, and it's not as well publicized or well known as rental properties or other investments. And so I built a school, to really go teach people how to do it. So, who does NoteSchool train? It trains people with investable capital who want to go learn how to buy a note and earn a lot more income than they can buying a rental with a lot less aggravation. And it also teaches real estate investors how to create good notes.
If you're enjoying the podcast and want to fast track your way to becoming a full-time real estate entrepreneur, then join the Multifamily Mastery Hub on School. You'll get access to our educational course library, live trainings, live interviews, and a community dedicated to helping you succeed. Visit school.com/multifamily mastery hub. That's SKOOL.com/multifamily mastery hub and fast track your way to becoming a full-time real estate entrepreneur today. So who is the ideal person that would think it, should be getting into notes? What does that person look like?
A lot of them are people that have had rental properties. They may not be burnt out landlords, but they don't want to go get in the sandbox again. They don't want to go buy another rental because it was a lot of work. It was a whipping, so to speak. And in 2018, you could buy a rental property for cash and across the United States make about 8% interest on your investment per year. We call it a capitalization rate, right? Right. Well, now that you take the identical property, same property, but now in 2025 instead of 2018, and they're making 4%. This is kind of a weird question. Who's making more money on a rental, the bank or the landlord?
No, it's got to be
Landlord's making 4% and the bank's making 7.5%.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be good math.
It's good for the bank. It's not good for the person doing the work.
So what if you wanted to learn to be the bank and even make higher interest than the 7.5%?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think when you can be in a position to be the bank, I mean, who gets paid first? the bank's going to get paid first, right? I mean, they always the lender is the person that always gets paid first, and then whatever's left over after all the other expenses, that's what, the landlord gets or the property owner gets. So, and when you say property owner, it's really the bank owns the property. You're just making payments to the bank. So I totally get, I get that perspective. So I think, yeah, anytime you can get in a position where your first position, it's going to work out best for you.
Yeah.
So we've got this cycle up of time. How much have you had to change your investment strategies over the years? I mean, we're
Can you
in,
imagine?
yeah, I bet, because like we're in the multifamily side. I guess like we're kind of in a rough spot in the cycle, and probably and mortgage rates where they're at, like you said, where you were 2018 versus now, your spread is half. So how do you deal with that when it comes to notes? How do you deal with that? Or maybe it's a great hedge against some of those economic cycles.
Well, I feel like for both my note buying company and for my training company, NoteSchool, my job is to be the visionary. My job is to know the market, and I spend a lot of time studying the market and studying people that I think really know the market. And so my job is to see out there into the market and say, whoops, there's a void over here. There's a big opportunity that if you could fill that gap, you're solving a problem in the industry.
Hmm.
And my highest and best use when I walk into the office every morning is to be that visionary to see that gap. Now we work on a lot of mechanics and okay, how do you do that? And how does it fit in how do you go trade loans in the marketplace and help people do that? And how do you go train people effectively and make it simple enough that they can understand? You know, people that are any idea that is new to people, you have to make it simple to them. I know it's not
Hmm.
saying that
Hmm.
they're simple minded. It's just saying that people are always going to start out when you can make a somewhat complex idea kind of simple. And then we work hard at that. But the idea here is I've got to go look around and see where there's a problem in the market. You mentioned multifamily, right? Well, you can go back and track me. You can fact check me. I've been calling the ball on that for a couple of years. And it's not that I'm not friendly. You know that I'm friends with people in the multifamily space that are your buddies,
Yep.
right? So it's not like I'm trashing the business. It's just it's a weather report. Think about not having a weather report, right? Or not knowing something was going to happen and the result of that. We've just seen a tragedy over the past little bit of this terrible situation in Texas where they didn't know it was going to rain 12 hours, right? They didn't
Yes.
know that this little bitty river all of a sudden goes crazy and washes these people away. Terrible thing. But you know what it was? It started out with the fact that the weather report didn't reflect what later came true to happen. So they didn't know it was going to happen. And so I look at everything about our business is it's my job to know the weather report and then to paint in how do you fill a void or how do you help somebody with a problem in the market. And that's really what I spend my greatest energy trying to focus on.
So you very much are a student of what's going on. You realize that you've got to change with the times, and you probably also learned like you said, you were kind of calling what was going to happen in multifamily, read the tea leaves, so to speak. So that definitely gives you an advantage. Now, I want to go back into, I'm going to say some more of the mechanics of the note. And so before the
Okay.
show, there's a couple concepts we were talking about, and that is converting rentals to notes and then investing in notes. So
Yep.
can you spend a little bit of time talking about each of those and help us understand the difference?
Okay, so for some of your audience, they have rent houses.
Hmm.
Not everybody in your audience has a rent house. So we'll get to them in a moment. But let's talk about the people that have rent houses right now. What if I could show you how to take a rent house and instead of earning 4% a year, earn 10 or 12% a year?
Sign me
Same
up
cost.
all day long. Sign me
And
up.
so that is converting a rental property to seller financing. Now we're pretty good at that and we're pretty seasoned at it, right? So we know how to do that in a way to teach an audience to do it. Some people, most people that are seasoned in real estate have some ideas about it, but let's be honest, they're not like A game players at it. I try to help people be an A game player at how to do it.
Okay.
So we're showing landlords how to convert single family houses to rentals. By the way, if you were a realtor and you could show your clients how to do this, this probably would let you get listings that otherwise you're not getting right now. So I also show realtors how to do it. I show landlords how to do it, right? So that's one audience that we serve, which is showing people how to take rental properties and make more money with them by seller financing. Let's look at the other side. They don't have rent houses. I don't have rent houses today. Have I had rent houses over 40 years? Of course I have, right? But I don't have rent houses today because I saw the market and I saw the situation and I took what would have been rentals and I seller financed them. So I practice what I preach. But now I have investable capital. I have money. And now what do I want to do? Why don't I just go buy a first mortgage on somebody's house and let's compare that to other investments. So I'm going to buy a first mortgage on somebody's house. First and foremost, I control the investment. I'm not investing with somebody else. I'm investing in something that I make the decisions on.
Okay.
But I don't have the workload of having a rent property. So I have the passive factor of investing in syndications or some other thing, right? But I have control of the investment. So I have control of a rent house. I just don't want that much control, so to speak, right? And so I show people, and so who is that? Business owners, retirees, high-end realtors, engineers, dentists, doctors, people that would be investing in something, wanting their time back, wanting something way more passive, but as a diversity, they might be wanting to invest in something that lets them essentially have control. That's who we help.
Okay. So I want to ask you this question. When I was doing research, going through a website, I saw some friends of mine, Adam and Emily Courtwright,
Yep.
and they're on your website, and so I've known them for years. They're in the multifamily investing group that I'm part of.
Yep.
And I've actually seen some of their emails where they started talking about notes. So I think that's a perfect example, and I'd love for you to explain a little bit more about how they were able to, like, we got these headwinds we're facing in multifamily, move over, and it sounds like they were doing more of probably the investing in notes,
They were. Yep.
and maybe they could even leverage some of the syndication model where you're helping other people invest. Can you break that down for us? I mean, when I saw them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know these people. They did that. I feel their pain, and if you solved it for them, maybe
Yep.
you can solve it for some of the other people that are listening that are in the multifamily space and just feeling this headwind right now.
So Emily is involved in a group with Keller Williams. There's a high-end group with Keller Williams that does like wealth strategies. And so I went and taught for them. I've taught for that group more than once. And so she met me there. And so they had just had a situation where they had some rentals that their money had gotten cut way back on because their expenses went way up higher than their rents went up,
Okay.
right? And so they weren't really cash flowing very good, if at all. And then Adam, who's a great guy, great operator, very tight, not loose at all. But once again, because of the market, his what he baked in is his income was overage money he's receiving from these multifamilies that he's managing. But as expenses went up, your rents went up, but not like expenses, right? And for that reason, it cut out all of his income. So he was making 15,000 a month and went to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're feeling a little pressured, like we got to do something. And so I came and started presenting the idea of buying notes, investing in notes. And so they came and we essentially went through the process and taught them, here's how we do it. So for them, they were syndicators looking for an alternative. Now, they did both sides. They had a couple, they had, I don't know how many rent houses they had, but 2 to 10, whatever it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
They sold them and owner financed them. And then on the other side, they replaced their missing income that they had lost. They had in multifamily and then it went away. They replaced it with note income. And and the other thing that they did is they had connections with investors with money.
Hmm.
And so I taught them some leveraging techniques to use with passive investors. So they could not only invest their money, but they could take passive investors' money and, parlay that up. Now they're essentially running their own little bank. And I think for Emily and Adam, and we've had this conversation with them many times, very special couple. Like they are awesome
They are. Yes, they are very
and
awesome.
and very sincere. And I said, look, this is just a matter of I'm simply showing you how to reinvent yourself in the market. Because one of the things, Stephen, I think has happened to a lot of people that have gotten into real estate in the past 15 years. It's like, here's your wealth plan. And all of a sudden somebody moves your cheese
Hmm.
and your wealth plan gets changed. Well, what in life doesn't change? Are you still using a BlackBerry?
No, I haven't used one of those in a very long time. Yes.
Exactly. And I love the BlackBerry, by the way, right? But things happen and there's market disruptions and there's things that happen. And this inflation thing really took a real hit in real estate, way more than people initially thought it would. And so property stopped making money, or the yields you could make was way less than what you used to could make. And so I'm just representing a different side of the market. I told you when we kind of were talking a little bit for the interview, and I said, you said, why are you so busy? And I said, because I kind of do good when things in real estate don't do so good.
Yep.
That's that's kind of the note business.
Awesome. Um, yeah, I'm excited to learn more. I wanna move now into how someone like myself can start learning more. And is that through Note School? And if yes, like what are the types of things that you teach in Note School?
Well, um, I don't know that you're officially an engineer like Emily and Adam, but you're a pretty meticulous guy. I can tell that, right? And
I'm not an engineer. I do have an IT background though.
okay, you're a technical personality
Yes.
and you're a prove it to me guy. And you want when I say you can make more money, you actually want to see this math,
Right.
right? So I built a training that's kind of showing people the opportunities in the business. Now, along with the training, we have deliverables, which is like a Q&A book, like 150 most common questions people have ever asked me about notes. Some spreadsheets so you can model some of this yourself. In other words, you're not just taking my word for it. You can take Excel and take some of the templates we've built and model this out. What I'd like to do is then offer you and your audience to come hang out with us for, say, an hour and a half, and let us actually get on the whiteboard and show some math. Like if this is true,
Hmm.
surely Eddie can prove it. And the answer is I can.
Awesome. Awesome. So, we'll circle back around to that how people can take advantage of that because I can tell you I'm gonna take advantage of that. So we've got that, and so you're gonna offer that. Um, before we circle back around, I wanna talk trends in the market right now. You've got this experience. You've seen the roller coasters we go through. What are what are you observing right now, and like what is the impact with note investing, and what do you think is going to happen over the next? We'll go with I'm going to challenge you with 5 years. I won't go out any further than that because that's just who knows what's going to happen.
We've got some headwinds in front of us. On the residential side, we've got listings that are up on the residential housing about 30% year over year. We've got home builders with a lot of inventory of houses, and more inventory they've had since 2009, to be specific. So, if you did research on the top 20 home builders, you'd find out they're in kind of panic mode. And And there's about 1 million non-performing notes, loans that are more than 120 days delinquent. And I think they're finally going to get to some resolution of what's going to happen with those. They've been kind of hanging around. The average days delinquent on those loans is over 800 days.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So there's some things in the residential market that are headwinds. I do think we're going to see a decline in rates. That's the Fed rate, and that doesn't mean that mortgage rates always follow exactly. And, because
I
mortgage
was gonna
rate,
ask you about that because I know the feds will lower, but that doesn't directly tie into mortgage
it will
rates.
it will track to some degree, but it won't necessarily be comparison. I mean, because um, you know, I could nerd out on, all of the analysis behind it, but we're going to see a little break in real estate so people can afford to buy more houses. So it's not going to I'm not calling for a bomb like we had in
Hmm.
2008, but most people are predicting a flat market or a declining market. And I think that's the case. Obviously in your business, multifamily, I just tell you that invest with great caution because I think there's more slippage left in the market.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, I see it every day. There's plenty of slippage left in multifamily. Do you think so? So one of the things that we saw happen, like 2021, 2022, I guess it started in 2020. Um, all this money was pumped in the economy, and I think the people who were printing the money knew the eclipse that would happen, and I think their plan was, well, we'll just do some inflation, or we'll just raise rates on the back end and we'll recapture it. But what happened is, the a bunch of people at that point, it, it it priced them out of owning a home. Like, just the price of homes just went up crazy during that time, right? People were moving because it's like, well, I don't have to go into the office. I can live where I want to live. And some people had some extra cash. And we never really saw, you probably have little bit different perspective, but we never really saw like where it went up, housing prices went up. There wasn't the equal where we've seen commercial real estate, multifamily, that pricing has come down significantly. Single family home values have not tracked the same.
Correct.
If anything, they've gone
Correct.
up a little bit, or stayed kind of flat.
Correct.
But do you think, you said some of this extra inventory, if mortgage rates remain flat, maybe they tick down a little bit. Do you think that people's ability to save will go up, and they'll get some relief? Then we'll get a few more people that are able to buy homes, which will kind of soften things. That's I'm trying to interpret, like what you're saying, and that's kind of a mouthful right there. But on the apartment investing side, I'm like, at some point this thing's got to quit going down. Like, where are all these people going that can't buy a house? But it's painful over here. So what do you think the
Well,
impact is there?
remember, everything about real estate is that we're dealing with a high ticket product. And so financeability has all to do with saleability. Think about the car business if you didn't have financing. If you only could sell cars for cash, right? That might change the business, right?
It's significantly,
And
yes.
so the problem we have right now in both commercial and in residential is we have a financing problem. Loan originations down in the residential space, 70%. And underwriting, as we discussed early in the show, is twice as difficult to qualify for a conventional mortgage as it was, in right before the virus. And so what we really have is not just a property increase in price problem or a rate increase problem, but we have a financeability problem. And this is exactly what's wrong in commercial real estate. Like, look at the underwriting standards of lenders for multifamily today compared to 2021.
Hmm.
Loan to values, debt to income ratios, or debt service coverage ratios, or I mean, listen, you can about figure that's the core of the problem. There's less people that can do it, And that's what drives supply and demand. There's
Yep.
less buyers than there are product. And so then all of a sudden that's what causes it. So, those are the kind of things we look for in the market. And, we, one of the things that if you're me, you have to always look into the future and kind of read the fade. Is residential going to have a big crash in it like it did in 2008? No. If you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you've got a bunch of rent houses and you think they're going to go up in value in the next 5 years the way they went up in the last 5 years, I'd say, in all due respect, you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right, right, right.
There's no forecast out there that comes close to saying any of that's going to happen. And so a lot of people are trying to make adjustments in the market and what they're investing in. And so I'm trying to help people with like some good, decent analysis to know what are their options and what are their risk in those options.
I love it. So with that, how can we, my audience, the people listening to this, how can we get access to that training you're providing? How can we get that education so we can make the smart move, the right move?
So the little opportunity class I'm going to send you to, and this is really good, by the way. I mean, if you like what we did today, we're going to take it several notches deeper. It's noteschool.com/Stephen, right? And we do sell this class, but Stephen, we wanted to give it to you and your audience. By the way, I have a little ticker in my head that if I'm interviewed on a podcast, I know that I did okay if I always get the guy that has the podcast is one of the first ones to sign up. And hopefully I hit yes in the blank today again. And that makes me happy because it means that I did a good job of communicating what I think what we do help people with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I learned a ton and I'm looking forward to it. Not only for myself, but like I said, I know Adam and Emily, and I've seen them be successful, using your strategies, and I think that goes a long way. So, Eddie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and share all this education and providing that. I'm going to call it a master's class. It sounds like there's a ton of value there for providing that for not only for me, but for the audience. If somebody wants to take it a step further, get a hold of you, learn more, and start working with you, how do they go ahead and do that?
Just NoteSchool.
Okay.
There's contact information in there, and my team will, be very, very attentive in helping people with a path that they want to get on. Like some people want an accelerated path, like Emily and Adam, and we can help people with that. And so we'd love to hear from them, really.
Awesome. Eddie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great talking.
Thanks. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to the Stephen Lee Thomas Show today. And if you found value in today's episode, then I have a favor to ask you. Please share it with friends, family, and anyone who might benefit from the insights we shared today. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. And if you aren't already part of our school community, then head on over to school.com/multifamily mastery hub and join today. And again, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you in our school community.